So we would like to know, do you think that Reggie Rose's comments were inbounds or were they out of bounds?
Well, they were definitely out of bounds, Skip. And, you know, I know Reggie Rose. I like him a lot. And I know that it comes from the right place in terms of him having a lot of love for his brother and wanting to see his brother in the best situation. That's all this was about. This is something that he said to me months ago, last year, right around the time Derrick Rose got injured. So his opinions, his thoughts that he expressed to ESPN are incredibly consistent because, I mean, that's almost verbatim what he said to me last year. But the reality is that it was still out of bounds for a multitude of reasons. Number one, it puts your brother in a really, really bad spot because Derrick Rose is being paid about $16.4 million this year, despite the fact having not played the game because of his ACL injury, obviously. He's owed $77.9 million over the next 4 years. And the last time I checked, nobody's talking about giving those dollars back. Chicago Bulls are still paying him. That's number one. Number two, and more importantly, when you talk about them not doing much, well, they're 31-23. They're 2 games out of the Central Division lead. They're a game and a half out of position for the 5th seed in the Eastern Conference. They would be in the playoffs if the season ended today, and all of this is without their star player and former league MVP. So if you're Derrick Rose and you're as great as we know Derrick Rose to be, the way that this team has been playing without him, who's to say that they wouldn't contend with him? They most certainly would contend. So for the brother to come out and say that he has no one surrounding him, it's like it's a bit too critical. And when you're collecting that check in the process, you can't sit there and talk about how you may sit out the season unless it's ideal. I got a lot of love for that family. You know how I feel about Derrick Rose. Yep. And I respect his brother. But I really think that he doesn't realize the kind of, shaky situation he placed his little brother in by making the comments that he made. That was a very bad thing to do. He came across as very selfish and unprofessional. And the Chicago Bulls were wise not to really have anything to say about it because Derrick Rose is their star. And they certainly don't want to alienate him because he loves his brother. But his brother Reggie loves him too. That's where this comes from. But that doesn't make him right.
I'm intrigued that he told you the same thing last year. That's a point in his favor, Reggie's favor. I'm struggling with this because I agree in principle with everything you just said, but is there truth in what Reggie said? It's painful truth.
Yeah.
It's tough truth for Derrick because now it puts Derrick in a tough spot when he walks back in the locker room with his current teammates. Like, we chop liver? Is that what your brother thinks? Is that what you think? Because it comes across like Reggie is just being the mouthpiece for Derrick. Now, let's look at the bigger picture. I did cover the Bulls for a few years in Chicago, as you know, for the Chicago Tribune. That organization, starting with that owner, Jerry Reinsdorf, notoriously cheap. They were cheap when Michael Jordan saved day after day. Remember, he was, to me, the most underpaid superstar in the history of sports.
Without question.
Now, obviously,
without question,
MJ could make up for it off the court, did just fine off the court. But, I mean, they had Bill Winnington and Luke Longley at center. Come on, for God's sakes. And last year, remember this Omer Asik who went to Houston, Stephen A.? He cost the Rockets a little bit of money. Yeah, but he can play a little bit. He's playing pretty well for the Rockets. And could the Bulls have used him? Yeah, they could have. They used him last year. He was a nice piece to the puzzle. Well, they're not going to pay that kind of freight. They're going to do everything on the cheap. There's going to be no luxury tax. And when it comes to trade deadline, they're not going to make a big splash that is going to cost the organization a big new chunk of money. Not going to do it. They'll pay Derrick under whatever the cap sort of forces them or the CBA forces them to pay. That's fine. But he's going to have to do it with quote-unquote chopped liver around him, you know, with kind of some marginal talent around him, which he's certainly capable of doing. So I'm torn about this because I like it that Reggie lit a little fire underneath Reinsdorf and said, come on, wake up. Give this kid a little break here.
It's a point worth noting. I respect that. But here's the problem. Carlos Boozer is being paid $15 million.
Yeah.
Luol Deng is being paid $13.3 million.
I hear you.
Joakim Noah is being paid $11 million. So we can't accuse them of not spending money. That's number one. Number two, their payroll is at about $74 million. It's one of the top 7 payrolls in the league. We can't accuse them of that. Number three, you got to remember, here's the biggest point, Skip. It comes from a good place. Reggie is absolutely telling the truth when he says these are his words, not his little brothers, because Reggie speaks for himself.
Okay.
And Reggie is the guy that gets in Derrick Rose's ear. It's not the other way around. It's not Derrick Rose whining to Reggie and then Reggie coming out and taking the hit. Oh, no. This is Reggie. This is how he feels. So he's telling the truth. The problem is that you can't sit there and say, oh, I don't care whether I'm ready or not. If I don't like the personnel that are my teammates, if I don't like who I'm playing with and I don't think we're good enough, why rush back? I'm going to take my time when you're getting paid $16.4 million right now. See, the point is you're collecting the check, but then you want to sit there and say, no, I'm going to wait, even if I'm ready. Now, that's not Derrick Rose saying that. That's his brother. But that's how it comes across, and I'm sure Reggie didn't mean it that way. Because when I spoke to him, he didn't mean it that way. He's just simply lamenting the fact that what you pointed out, the Bulls need to be doing more.
Yeah.
And maybe they should to some degree. But that doesn't mean you say it, because that's about Derrick. You've now put Derrick in that position where people like yourself and others question whether or not it's something that Derrick wanted him to say.
I agree.
That's a tight spot to put Derrick in. And that's what he has to think about. That's the biggest reason why he's wrong. And I'm sure the Rose family is going to look at Reggie and say, we hear you, but think about Derrick and the position you put Derrick in. That's what he's got to watch.
I completely agree. Little brother is in a tough PR spot now.
He's in a tough spot.
Yep.